Ever have your Saturday destroyed by pure, concentrated racism? I'm loading groceries when this entitled kid blocks my Honda. Designer clothes, trust fund face, standing like he owns the world. The October air reeks of pumpkin spice and privilege. Hey, you in the junk car. His voice cuts sharp. My mom says people like you don't belong here. Hand over those groceries. We paid for this parking lot. People like you. Blood boiling yet? Here comes Hurricane Karen. Power suit, clicking heels, persecution complex in overdrive. This is private property. I'm calling police right now. The delicious irony? I'm watching her dial while the cold car metal reminds me I've been reviewing her family's domestic violence reports for months. She's about to call the cops on the guy who is the cops. This woman has zero idea she just triggered her own personal nightmare. What would you do if someone stole your groceries over skin color? Drop your HOA horror story and subscribe to HOA Stories. Karen's education starts now. All right, story time, because this gets exponentially better when you know who's really playing chess here. Marcus Stone, at your service. 23 years climbing the law enforcement ladder, 8 months as police commander, and exactly zero tolerance for bullies in designer suits. I grew up in public housing where the elevator reeked of stale cigarettes and shattered dreams. Worked 3 jobs through college and earned every single stripe on this uniform the hard way. 6 months back, my divorce finalized. No Jerry Springer drama, just 2 decent people who realized they wanted different lives. I bought this modest house in Willow Creek for peace and quiet, maybe neighbors who'd wave from their driveways instead of threatening lawsuits over grass height. The smell of fresh paint and possibility filled those first few weeks, before I met the neighborhood tyrant. Meet Deborah Whitfield, currently screeching into her phone like a caffeinated Karen with legal delusions. 6 years as HOA president. 6 years of running this place like her personal dictatorship. The woman collects power thrips like my ex-wife collected throw pillows. Obsessively and without purpose. Her real estate company coincidentally lands every community contract. What are the odds? Her son Bryce, the entitled man-child currently blocking my grocery access, is 19, college dropout, professional basement dweller. I've personally signed 3 domestic disturbance reports for their address this year. Kids got anger management issues, mommy's got a checkbook full of cover-ups. The irony tastes sweeter than my morning coffee. Here's Willow Creek's dirty secret. This place was designed for actual humans. Teachers pinching pennies, nurses working doubles, mechanics with motor oil under their fingernails, real people building real lives. But Deborah's systematic harassment campaign is transforming it into something that reeks of fear and foreclosure notices. Case study number 1, Elena Rodriguez, 3 houses down. Pediatric nurse who literally saves babies, works 16-hour shifts, comes home exhausted to the sound of her own footsteps echoing in an empty house. Deborah slapped her with a $300 0 cents fine for unauthorized commercial vehicle maintenance. Elena's boyfriend changed her oil in the driveway. The absolute audacity of basic car maintenance. Robert Chen, retired engineer whose bridges carry thousands of commuters daily. Deborah's current harassment target over his tomato garden. The old man's hands still shake slightly when he tends his plants. Legacy of decades building infrastructure that actually matters. Apparently, growing food disrupts community aesthetic harmony. Heaven forbid we cultivate vegetables instead of decorative wasteland. Sarah Mitchell, single mom and accountant, raising 2 kids after her ex vanished like morning mist. I hear her garage door rumble open at 6 a.m. every weekday, rushing kids to school before her commute. Deborah's newest victim? Sarah's car is incompatible with community standards. It's a 2018 Honda Civic that still has that new car payment smell, literally newer than my beat-up ride. The pattern's clearer than my windshield after a good Rain-X treatment. Deborah exclusively targets working-class residents who can't afford legal dream teams. She wouldn't dare hassle the investment banker's McMansion or the tech entrepreneur's Tesla collection gleaming in their heated garage. Here's something most people don't know. HOAs must follow their documented bylaws and provide written violation notices citing specific rules. Always demand exact bylaw references and documentation. If they can't produce paperwork, there's no legitimate violation. Period. What Deborah doesn't realize, and what's about to detonate her entire power structure like a controlled demolition, is that community policing is my specialty. I understand neighborhood dynamics, recognize abuse patterns, and deal professionally with people who mistake tiny authority for actual power. property law crosses my desk weekly. I've investigated enough harassment cases and illegal foreclosures to identify Deborah's playbook from 3 zip codes away. The crisp October air carries her desperation sweat mixed with department store perfume as she gesticulates wildly at whoever's suffering through her phone tantrum. She keeps glancing over like I might spontaneously combust or relocate to another dimension. The sound of her clicking heels on asphalt creates a nervous rhythm that matches her accelerating panic. I lean casually against my Honda, arms crossed, watching her performance art unfold. Because patience, my friends, wins wars. 10 minutes later, I'm sitting front row at the Deborah Whitfield Circus, also known as an emergency HOA board meeting. The community center's fluorescent lights buzz like angry wasps while 30 neighbors squeeze into folding chairs that squeak louder than my Honda's morning protests. The air reeks of burnt coffee, industrial carpet cleaner, and pure desperation. Deborah's, not mine. She's positioned herself at the head table like she's presiding over the Supreme Court instead of a neighborhood book club dispute. Her 4 bored cronies nod at everything she says like dashboard bobbleheads having seizures. Not one functioning spine among them, which explains 6 years of unchecked tyranny. Ladies and gentlemen, Deborah announces, channeling her inner wannabe dictator, we face a serious threat to our community's safety and property values. That threat? Me? The middle-aged guy who pays his mortgage on time and commits the heinous crime of putting groceries in his own car? Absolutely terrifying. Bryce takes the witness chair, another folding chair, but he's treating it like Broadway, and delivers an Oscar-worthy performance about how I aggressively threatened him and refused to comply with legitimate requests. The kid's packing more fiction than a Stephen King convention. He got really aggressive and said he'd make me sorry if I didn't back off, Bryce declares, his voice quivering with practiced victim energy. It was really scary behavior. I'm scribbling notes, documenting every beautiful lie from my rapidly growing evidence file. 23 years of police work teaches you to appreciate quality fabrication, especially when it's this sloppy. Then, Elena Rodriguez stands up and, honey, she is absolutely not having this nonsense. Excuse me, she says, her pediatric nurse voice cutting through the bowl like a laser scalpel. I was there. I watched the entire incident from my kitchen window. She points at Bryce like she's identifying a suspect. You demanded that man hand over his groceries and physically blocked his car door. He never threatened anyone. It's dead silence except for those demonic fluorescent lights humming their electrical death song. Deborah's face cycles through the red spectrum before settling on overripe tomato. Mrs. Rodriguez, Deborah sneers, dripping venom, perhaps you need vision correction. Clearly, you're mistaken. Wrong move, lady. Never insult someone who saves children's lives while working 16-hour shifts. My vision's absolutely perfect, Elena fires back, steel in her voice. I can clearly see when someone's lying through their teeth. Robert Chen raises his hand like we're in detention. I have photographs, he announces quietly. I document all community interactions for historical accuracy. Mini-twist revelation time. Robert's been systematically building a legal case without anyone realizing it. Engineering precision meets neighborhood drama. Deborah's composure shatters like cheap wine glasses. Mr. Chen, unauthorized photography violates privacy expectations. Public spaces, Robert interrupts with pure engineer logic. No reasonable expectation of privacy in parking lots. Basic property law. Sarah Mitchell, emboldened by the chaos, finds her voice. While we're sharing experiences, can we discuss my $300 fine for owning a 2018 Honda that's apparently too old for neighborhood standards? The room erupts in whispered conversations, residents leaning toward each other, connecting dots, recognizing patterns, the sweet sound of community awakening to systematic abuse. But Deborah's not finished with her performance. She pounds her ridiculous gavel. Seriously, where does someone purchase those? Demanding order like she's conducting a symphony of suffering. Elena Rodriguez, you are disrupting this official proceeding, she declares with the authority of someone who's lost control. I'm issuing you a formal citation for association disruption which carries a mandatory $50 fine. Boom. There's the overreach I've been waiting for. Fining a community member for telling truth during a public forum. The gavel's echo reverberates like justice being murdered. Elena goes pale but doesn't flinch. Instead, she does something beautiful. Starts walking toward the exit with dignity intact. Robert follows, clutching his evidence folder. Sarah trails behind, jangling her offensive Honda keys. 8 more neighbors who've reached their limit join the exodus. Both people walk out in solidarity, leaving Deborah staring at empty chairs and tasting her own poison. The predetermined vote proceeds exactly as expected. 5-0 for my $500, 0 cents fine, and community behavior modification program. I accept gracefully, request all documentation in writing, and watch Deborah celebrate what she thinks is total victory. She just handed me enough evidence to demolish her kingdom. Sometimes winning means letting your opponent think they're destroying you, while they're actually destroying themselves. The smell of her desperation mingles with stale coffee as residents file out, whispering among themselves. I catch Elena's voice in the hallway. Anyone else tired of this garbage? Evolution, folks, starts with one person saying, enough. Tonight, Elena Rodriguez fired the first shot, and 12 neighbors just enlisted in the resistance. 3 days later, my mailbox looks like a law firm exploded. Deborah's launched full-scale warfare disguised as community compliance enforcement. Monday, violation for improper garbage bin placement. My bin was 6 inches too close to the street. $75 fine. The crisp legal paper crackles between my fingers as I photograph it for evidence. Tuesday, citation for unauthorized window treatments. My basic white blinds apparently offend community aesthetics. 50 more bucks. Deborah's treating my house like her personal slot machine. Wednesday brings the masterpiece. Bryce keys a lovely zigzag down my Honda's side at 2 a.m. Then Mommy cites me for damaged vehicle diminishing property values. The metallic scratch catches morning sunlight like a middle finger to logic. Thursday evening, Elena drops by for sugar, but really intelligence sharing. Robert's been busy, she whispers, kitchen light casting conspiratorial shadows across her face. Our engineer neighbor documented everything. Bryce's vandalism, Deborah's illegal entry attempts. The woman even tried climbing my back fence yesterday, claiming emergency assessment authority. She got stuck halfway over, Elena giggles. Sounded like a wounded walrus having an existential crisis. Mental note, buy Robert premium whiskey. Friday morning, Deborah arrives with Inspector Williams, some poor guy with a clipboard and the survival instincts of a lemming. His business card reads, Williams, Property Assessment in Comic Sans font. Even criminals have standards. I'll need proper credentials, I tell them politely. Williams' Adam's apple bobs like a fishing lure in shark water. Well, that would be non-existent, I interrupt gently. HOAs lack inspection authority beyond common areas. What you're attempting is called trespassing. Deborah's face resembles an overheated fire engine. You're obstructing legitimate oversight. I'm exercising property rights. No warrant, no entry. Williams practically sprints to his van while Deborah hisses, this isn't over. God, I hope not, I reply. This is just getting fun. 3 neighbors watch from windows. Elena recording, Robert with professional camera equipment, Sarah taking legal notes, my own personal documentary crew. Afternoon brings certified mail. Summons to appear before Deborah's Community Standards Tribunal for escalating violations and contempt. A tribunal. She's created her own court system. I call attorney friend Jake Morrison, who laughs until he wheezes. Marcus. She's building a federal case against herself. Fair housing violations, harassment, extortion. Now she's playing judge without authority. Next move? Let her dig deeper. Document everything. Educate your neighbors about their rights. That evening, Elena hosts an impromptu barbecue. Funny how exactly 12 households show up, the same ones who walked out of Deborah's circus. Burger smoke mingles with righteous indignation as I share HOA basics with the group. The October air carries the scent of rebellion and propane as Sarah scribbles notes and Robert documents everything. Most people don't realize HOAs must follow due process, I explain, firelight dancing across eager faces. They can't fine you without proper notice, investigation, and appeal procedures. Always demand written documentation citing specific bylaw violations. By marshmallow time, we've built something beautiful. An organized, educated, thoroughly angry community resistance. The sweet taste of s'mores mixed with justice planning? Absolutely delicious. Deborah's about to learn that her biggest mistake wasn't calling cops on me, it was uniting her victims. Tuesday's Community Standards Tribunal transforms the community center into Deborah's personal courtroom fantasy. She's got a raised table, nameplate reading Presiding Officer Whitfield, and an Amazon gavel that screams delusions of grandeur. The air reeks of cheap authority and expensive desperation as 37 residents pack folding chairs. Elena shoots me a thumbs up while Robert adjusts something suspiciously camera-shaped in his jacket. Mr. Stone, Deborah announces, voice echoing off cinderblock walls like budget Shakespeare. You stand accused of willful community standards violations, obstruction of authorized inspections, and fostering neighborhood discord. Fostering discord, I'm apparently a one-man chaos agent. She's prepared a PowerPoint, because megalomaniacs love visual aids, titled The Stone Problem, a Threat Assessment. Slide 1 features my Honda with Bryce's artistic scratches highlighted in accusatory red circles. As documented evidence shows, Deborah continues, laser pointer dancing like a caffeinated conductor, Mr. Stone's property failures are escalating exponentially. I raise my hand. Are we discussing how my car got damaged? Irrelevant, she snaps. Current condition is what matters. Sarah Mitchell stands, clutching documents like holy scripture. Actually, I researched our bylaws. Section 4.7 states property damage from vandalism cannot be assessed as owner violations unless unaddressed for 60 days. Deborah's eye twitches like a broken turn signal. You're out of order. I'm quoting our own rules, Sarah continues, accountant precision cutting through bull. Damage occurred 3 days ago, well within remediation period. The crowd buzzes like disturbed hornets. Robert Chen raises his engineer hand. I have time-stamped photographs documenting the timeline. Any twist revelation? My neighbors studied our rules better than our dictator. Furthermore, Robert continues, producing a folder thick enough to stop bullets, I've documented 17 bylaw violations in Mrs. Whitfield's enforcement actions. Deborah's composure shatters like dropped crystal. Unauthorized documentation is legal in public spaces, Elena interrupts, displaying phone video, like yesterday's fence-climbing expedition. She plays security footage of Deborah attempting property invasion, complete with colorful language when she gets stuck halfway over. The crowd leans forward like they're watching premium entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, I say, standing from my defendant chair, let's discuss what's really happening here. Deborah recoils like I'm radioactive waste. For 6 years, this community's operated under selective enforcement, designed to drive out residents who don't fit someone's personal demographic preferences. Cemetery silence except for eternal fluorescent humming. Elena Rodriguez, pediatric nurse fined for oil changes. Robert Chen, bridge builder, harassed for tomatoes. Sarah Mitchell, working mother, targeted for driving affordable transportation. Pause for pattern recognition. Notice who gets targeted versus who gets ignored. Murmurs ripple through audience like dropping stones in still water. You're disrupting official proceedings, Deborah shrieks. What official proceedings? I ask pleasantly. This tribunal lacks legal authority, due process, or appeal mechanisms. It's community theater with judicial fantasies. Deborah pounds her gavel so violently it splits in half, crack echoing like gunfire. I am the elected president. These are official actions. Sarah consults her research notes with accountant smugness. According to county records, our HOA's corporate registration expired 18 months ago. You've been operating without legal authority. Nuclear bomb, direct hit. Residents erupt in overlapping conversations, while Deborah's face cycles through visible spectrum before settling on catastrophic meltdown red. Impossible, she stammers. I would have been notified. Only with proper renewal paperwork, Robert observes, which requires transparent financial reporting. Elena grins like discovering buried treasure. So these fines we've been paying were illegally collected, I finish, which raises fascinating questions about misappropriated funds. The energy shifts from confusion to something sharper, hungrier. Justice, beginning to bloom, carries sweetness better than spring flowers. Deborah realizes her kingdom's crumbling in real time. Meeting adjourned, she shouts, gathering PowerPoint props like evacuating burning buildings. The 37 residents aren't moving. They're recognizing years of manipulation by someone with zero authority. Elena starts slow clapping. It builds until the room thunders with applause. Same time next week, Sarah asks brightly, after we elect legitimate leadership? The revolution officially began. Deborah Whitfield just lost everything. Morning coffee tastes like sweet revenge when Jake Morrison calls, sounding giddy as Christmas morning. Marcus, you magnificent bastard, you've struck pure gold. Papers rustle like treasure maps as my attorney friend sorts through legal avalanche. That expired registration? Just the appetizer. I'm watching Robert tend his criminal tomatoes through unauthorized blinds, morning light making his precision look surgical. Man waters plants like performing brain surgery. How big, I ask, though Jake's excitement screams the answer. Federal prosecution big. Spent all night drowning in county records, state filings, bank documents, frantic keyboard clicking. Your neighborhood Napoleons run a criminal enterprise for 2 years. Every fine, assessment, contract, collected without authority. Applications smack like October wind. So, Elena's truth-telling fine. Textbook extortion. Property inspections, criminal trespass, selective enforcement targeting minorities, fair housing violations making federal prosecutors salivate. Chair creaks approval as I lean back. Financial damage? 96,000 illegal fees over 18 months. Plus, Deborah's company mysteriously received contracts worth another 130 grand. Voice drips sarcasm thicker than syrup. Remarkable coincidence. Elena's leaving for hospital duty in that offensive Honda. Irony tastes better than premium coffee. What about people who paid bogus fees? Full restitution plus damages. But this cancer spread, found identical patterns in 3 other communities. Systematic fraud with federal implications. Cop brain connects dots faster than crime scene analysis, targeting working-class residents to force turnover, profiting through real estate sales. Classic gentrification wearing community standards drag. But here's the delicious part. She documented everything herself. PowerPoints, emails discussing undesirable element removal. Jake's laughter bubbles. Created her own prosecution case. I nearly choke. Built her own conviction? More thorough than FBI surveillance. But something explains why this got personal. Tone shifts serious. Deborah's drowning. Underwater mortgage, failing business, unemployed husband, facing foreclosure in 60 days. Her desperation crystallizes. Harassment campaigns, absurd violations, kangaroo courts, symptoms of empire crumbling. She wasn't just ideological, I realize. Needed every illegal dollar, every fine, forced sale, kickback-funded survival. You represented everything she's losing. Stability, respect, belonging. Morning air carries garden fragrance mixed with playground laughter. Normal life persisting while corruption implodes. Here's crucial knowledge. When HOAs operate without legal status, all rules become unenforceable suggestions. Always verify corporate registration through county records, public information saving thousands. Federal complaint filed this afternoon. Fair housing to HUD, financial crimes to FBI, local prosecutors salivating over extortion. Watching Sarah load kids into violating Honda, realization hits. Community healing? Since HOA operated illegally, all rules are void. Clean slate for democratic reconstruction. Understand what you accomplished? Jake asks. Liberated 37 families from systematic abuse, prevented others losing homes to manufactured violations. Elena waves at documenting Robert. These people trusted me. The stories, frustrations, hope. What began defending my peaceful existence became transformation. Proving ordinary people reclaim power, understanding their rights. Sweet justice aroma mingles with October air and victory coffee. Sometimes best revenge involves watching criminals destroy themselves while you document evidence. Thursday evening, Elena's backyard looks like community organizing porn. 31 households gathered around her fire pit, plotting the downfall of suburban tyranny with the enthusiasm of revolutionaries who brought their own lawn chairs. The October air smells like grilling rebellion mixed with wood smoke and righteous fury. Roberts transformed the patio into mission control, complete with labeled folders and enough documentation to bury a small government. The man's organized crime like he builds bridges with terrifying precision. Folks, I addressed the group, firelight making everyone look properly conspiratorial. Tonight, we're not planning revenge. We're performing an exorcism. Sarah Mitchell, armed with accounting software and the concentrated rage of systematic robbery victims, drops her financial bombshell. Combined illegal fees from everyone here, $47,000 over 18 months, not counting intimidation-induced property sales. Helena pokes the fire, sending sparks skyward like tiny middle fingers to injustice. My hospital friend Carmen survived identical harassment in Oakwood Heights. Guess whose real estate company was involved? Pattern recognition kicks in harder than my morning coffee. This isn't neighborhood drama, it's corporate fraud with a homeowner association costume. Jake Morrison arrives fashionably late, briefcase bulging like Christmas morning for prosecutors. Ladies and gentlemen, federal cavalry's arrived. He produces documents thick enough to stop bullets. HUD investigators officially interested. FBI Financial Crimes Unit wants statements. Local prosecutors practically hyperventilating with excitement. Mrs. Chen, Robert's wife and retired paralegal with the organizational skills of a military quartermaster, raises her hand. Civil remedies? Class action possibilities? Preliminary paperwork filed, Jake grins, settling into a lawn chair that groans under legal weight. But here's the beautiful part. You're not just seeking compensation. You're reclaiming democracy. Time for community education around crackling flames. Most people don't realize HOAs are corporate entities with specific legal requirements, I explain, watching faces illuminate with understanding. Valid registration, documented bylaws, transparent finances, constitutional due process, all mandatory. The fire pops approval as revelation spreads like warmth. When HOAs operate illegally, residents can dissolve existing structures and create governance reflecting actual community values. Key takeaway: communities possess more power than they realize, but only through understanding legal frameworks and collective action. Robert unfurls neighborhood maps like battle plans. I've identified every household affected by targeting patterns, 39 families total, including 3 who fled due to harassment. Alina channels her nursing background into victim support logistics, consistent documentation, coordinated representation, emotional support for systematic abuse, trauma. The group organically divides into committees: legal strategy, Jake and Mrs. Chen; financial recovery, Sarah's revenge spreadsheets; community outreach, Elena's healing touch; evidence preservation, Robert's engineering paradise. Tom Bradley, recently retired teacher, volunteers crucial intelligence with the excitement of someone finally able to use his neighborhood watch paranoia productively. I've documented every Whitfield visitor. Real estate partner comes twice weekly with banker boxes. Yesterday they loaded moving trucks with file cabinets. Classic evidence destruction behavior. Consciousness of guilt in filing cabinet form. Anyone else notice suspicious activity, I ask? Hands shoot up like students eager to share gossip. Monica reports moving boxes. David documented Bryce loading luxury items into storage. Jennifer photographed Deborah's midnight luggage runs. Wood smoke mingles with approaching justice as our accidental intelligence network reveals systematic cover-up attempts, behavior making federal prosecutors salivate harder than Pavlov's dogs. Jake's phone buzzes with legal victory sounds. FBI wants interviews starting Monday, particularly interested in recordings, photos, written communications. Every hand rockets skyward. Robert's documentation obsession accidentally created law enforcement's dream evidence collection. Protection concerns? Asks Maria, nurse practitioner channeling maternal protective instincts. If Deborah realizes we're organizing, valid fear. Cornered criminals often choose escalation over surrender. Standard precautions, I advise, professional mode engaging. Document everything, travel together, install cameras if possible, report threats immediately. Fire's dying embers cast conspiratorial shadows as our town hall concludes. Neighbors exchange contacts, coordinate childcare for legal meetings, plan evidence organization sessions, with the enthusiasm of people finally fighting back. Elena stands with the authority of someone who saves lives professionally. 6 months ago, we were isolated households afraid to challenge obvious injustice. Tonight, we're a community reclaiming power through legal channels. Spontaneous applause echoes off houses where families finally feel safe. Sarah approaches with the question everyone's thinking. What happens to Deborah personally? I watch flames flicker against October darkness. She faces consequences for choices made. We're seeking justice and healing, not destruction. I've focused on it, I've delivered everything to it, and the sweet taste of s'mores and democracy planning lingers as neighbors disperse to homes they're finally reclaiming. Tomorrow, we build the community Willow Creek was meant to be. Monday morning arrives with the subtlety of a fire alarm. I'm sipping coffee on my porch, watching Operation Damage Control unfold at the Whitfield household with better entertainment value than premium cable. Deborah emerged at 6 a.m. looking like she hasn't slept since the Clinton administration. Power suits replaced by yoga pants and a wrinkled shirt, screaming, "My empire is crumbling and I can't find matching socks." She's loading banker boxes into her SUV with the frantic energy of someone hiding evidence before federal agents arrive. Which they will, today, at 2 p.m., Bryce stumbles out looking marinated in regret and cheap cologne, hauling electronics toward a storage truck. Kids' movements have that special jerky quality of someone whose privileged life is about to become a federal case study. Elena texts from her hospital shift. Deborah called at 5 a.m., 13 missed calls, voice messages increasingly unhinged, offering to make deals. Panic mode, fully activated. Robert Chen, engineering hero, has positioned himself strategically with camera equipment that could photograph Jupiter's moons. Man's documenting evidence destruction with the dedication of someone cataloging endangered species. By 8 a.m., Deborah makes the tactical error of approaching my porch directly. She looks like stress personified, makeup smeared, hair resembling post-tornado bird's nest, glazed expression of someone whose Ponzi scheme just collapsed. Marcus, she begins, voice carrying desperate artificial sweetness, I think there's been some misunderstanding about community policies. I continued coffee consumption, letting silence work its interrogation magic. 23 years of experience taught me guilty people can't handle quiet. Maybe we got off wrong foot, she continues, wringing hands like squeezing water from stones. What if we forgot those violation notices? Clean slate. Desperation hangs in autumn air like yesterday's garbage smell. Deborah, are you attempting to obstruct a federal investigation? Her face cycles through the spectrum before settling on, oh shit, white. Federal? What federal investigation? The one involving systematic fraud, extortion, and fair housing violations that FBI agents discuss with residents this afternoon. If panic had sound, it would be Deborah's noise. Wounded animal meets deflating balloon meets existential crisis having nervous breakdown. You called FBI on me? She squeaks, voice climbing toward dog hearing frequencies. Your documented criminal activity did that, I gesture toward Robert, photographing our conversation with artistic dedication. Federal agencies get interested when someone systematically defrauds communities for profit. Deborah's composure disintegrates like cheap makeup in August. I was maintaining property values, keeping neighborhood nice, people like you. She catches herself, but racism escapes like toothpaste from tubes. People like me what, Deborah? Her mouth opens and closes like fish attempting philosophy. Behind her, Bryce loads boxes labeled Urgent Parget with all the stealth of bulls in china shops. Elena arrives home early, probably using vacation time to witness justice. She parks her offensive Honda and approaches with the calm confidence of someone who saves children while dealing with entitled parents daily. Morning, Deborah. How's your day? Elena, thank God. Deborah lunges like finding life preservers on the Titanic. Help me explain, this is just community misunderstanding. You mean systematic harassment, illegal fees, and discriminatory enforcement we documented for federal investigators? Elena interrupts with nursing precision. That misunderstanding? Blood drains from Deborah's face faster than broken sink water. You can't. This is neighborhood drama. $47,000 in illegal fees isn't drama, Sarah announces, emerging with perfect timing. It's federal crime. Now we've surrounded Deborah with 3 primary targets, all calm, documented, cooperating with law enforcement. Irony's thick enough to serve for dinner. I have rights, she shrieks, voice reaching noise ordinance violation frequencies. I'm calling my lawyer. Excellent idea, I agree. You'll need one. She flees toward her house like accountability's chasing her, stumbling over desperation. Through open garage, I see boxes labeled Destroy, Shred, and my favorite, Burn Immediately. Mini twist revelation. Robert signals me, pointing at his camera display. He's captured Deborah's confession on audio, her admission about targeting people like you. Evidence destruction and racial motivation documented simultaneously. Elena shakes her head, watching our neighborhood terrorist reduced to panicked evidence destruction. Hard believing we feared that. Fear is powerful until people realize they outnumber bullies, I observe. Morning air carries autumn leaves mixed with approaching federal justice storms. By tomorrow, Deborah Whitfield's suburban terror reign ends officially. Sometimes best revenge involves stepping aside, letting criminals destroy themselves while documenting evidence. The sweet smell of justice tastes better than premium coffee. Tuesday brings chaos that makes reality TV producers weep with envy. By 10 a.m., the Whitfield household resembles a disaster movie where federal investigation is the meteor and privileged people experience consequences for the first time. On watering plants, detectives speak for conducting surveillance while maintaining deniability. When 3 black SUVs roll down our street, like Justice Cavalry arriving fashionably punctual, FBI Special Agent Sarah Chen emerges wearing a pantsuit costing more than my car and an expression suggesting someone's decade is about to be thoroughly ruined. Her team spreads across the neighborhood with surgical precision for Operation Wealthy Suburban Criminal Gets Reality Check. Deborah bursts from her door like her house is literally on fire, which, metaphorically, it absolutely is. She's clutching phone, designer purse, and hastily packed overnight bag while shrieking at Agent Chen, "You can't do this! Private property! I have rights!" Agent Chen responds with calm authority of someone who arrests actual dangerous criminals instead of suburban wannabe dictators. "Ma'am, federal warrant. Please step aside." The next 2 hours unfold like the most satisfying when keeping it real goes wrong episode ever filmed. Robert positions himself strategically to document evidence preservation procedures, while Elena provides victim statements with the enthusiasm of someone finally getting justice served with federal warrant garnish. Agent Chen interviews systematically, each conversation adding nails to Deborah's legal coffin. Elena produces nursing-quality documentation. Turns out healthcare workers excel at record-keeping when systematically targeted. Mrs. Rodriguez, describe the harassment pattern you experienced. Started 18 months ago. Fines for previously acceptable activities, escalating fees for minor infractions, foreclosure threats for non-violations. Elena's voice carries professional precision. Multiple comments about people like me not understanding community standards. Suggestions healthcare workers couldn't afford quality neighborhoods. More nails. Deborah's coffin resembles a legal porcupine. Sarah Mitchell's financial documentation makes Agent Chen's eyes light up like Christmas morning. 47,000 illegal fees from this neighborhood alone. Notice the correlation between harassment intensity and property turnover rates. Spreadsheets tell stories more damning than confessions. Systematic working-class targeting, escalating harassment until sale. Properties immediately listed by Deborah's company at inflated prices. Textbook gentrification fraud, Agent Chen observes. Manufactured violations forcing demographic changes for profit. Around 1 p.m., Bryce attempts neighborhood escape with U-Haul trailer loaded with boxes labeled personal do not exam. Federal agents have different privacy opinions regarding evidence preservation. His front lawn interrogation provides neighborhood entertainment while his privileged bubble finally pops. Agent Chen's questions are polite, professional, absolutely devastating. "Mr. Whitfield, explain these texts about cleaning house and making problems disappear." Bryce stammers like broken machinery. "That was actual cleaning. We meant literal. Physical cleaning requires discussing demographic targeting and removal strategies." The kid's face cycles through confusion, panic, and dawning realization that federal agents significantly exceed whatever echo chamber raised him intellectually. Mini-twist revelation. Agent Chen drops the bombshell. "Mr. Stone, we've monitored this situation for 3 weeks based on previous victim complaints from other communities." My coffee pauses mid-sip. "You've been watching us?" Specifically, systematic evidence destruction and witness intimidation beginning when Mrs. Whitfield realized exposure. Agent Chen gestures toward Robert's setup. "Your neighbor's documentation provided crucial corroboration for our existing investigation." Robert beams like engineering precision just saved democracy. By 3 p.m., federal moving trucks arrive, but not for Whitfield's. Agents methodically load banker boxes, computers, filing cabinets, and approximately 17 phones into evidence vehicles while Deborah watches her empire disappear into government custody. The afternoon air carries justice being served scent mixed with federal charges as neighbors gather on sidewalks witnessing 6 years of systematic abuse finally ending. Deborah gets read her rights with all the dignity of someone whose criminal enterprise just became Exhibit A. The sound of handcuffs clicking echoes off houses like freedom bells ringing. Elena squeezes my shoulder watching evidence inventory. "Hard believin' it's really over." "This part's over," I correct, watching our neighborhood terrorist become federal defendant. Now comes healing. Sweet taste of community liberation, mixed with autumn air, beats any revenge fantasy ever conceived. The smell of Deborah's desperation mingles with October breeze as justice finally comes home to roost. Saturday evening, Willow Creek Community Center buzzes with energy that could power Las Vegas. Word spread faster than wildfire. Tonight's the first official neighborhood meeting since Deborah's federal arrest, and every household wants front row seats to democracy being reborn. The air smells like fresh coffee, homemade cookies, and pure vindication as 87 residents pack into space designed for 30. Alina's managing registration while Robert documents everything with the dedication of someone chronicling revolution. Sarah's armed with spreadsheets that would make forensic accountants weep. Tonight's special guest, Channel 7 investigative reporter Jessica Martinez, who's been following our story since Agent Chen's press conference about systematic HOA fraud affecting multiple communities. She's got that hungry look of someone smelling Pulitzer potential. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the packed room, ancient microphone adding dramatic feedback. 6 months ago, we were afraid to challenge obvious abuse. Tonight, we're rebuilding democracy from scratch. Thunderous applause echoes off walls that witness years of Deborah's manufactured authority. Democracy stretching wings after being caged. Jessica steps forward, camera crew positioning for optimal drama. Mr. Stone, residents might not know, you're actually Police Commander Marcus Stone, the man Deborah called cops on for grocery shopping while existing. Cemetery silence, this is it. Cover blown, irony revealed simultaneously to everyone. That's correct, I confirm, watching faces process delicious absurdity. Mrs. Whitfield spent months harassing a police commander, then called my own department demanding my arrest. Nervous laughter ripples like dropped stones. Elena stands, grinning like discovered treasure. Wait, she says, voice carrying special joy of connecting dots, when Deborah called 911, screaming about criminal behavior. She called police on the police, I finish, demanding officers arrest their own commander for grocery shopping while black. Silence breaks like bursting dam. Laughter erupts from every corner. Not cruel, but cosmic joke appreciation. Robert documents while tears of mirth stream down his face. Jessica grins like Christmas morning. Mrs. Whitfield called police on the police commander, demanding arrest by his own officers for violating legally non-existent rules. While being filmed, recorded, and documented by a retired engineer who builds better cases than prosecutors, I add. Irony thick enough to serve for dinner. Sarah stands, clutching financial evidence like holy scripture. Speaking of serving, let's discuss what Deborah stole from our tables. Her analysis lands with accounting precision. Combined illegal fees from affected neighborhoods, $237,000 over 3 years. Federal recovery, $96,000 cash, plus assets worth another $150,000. Numbers explode like bombs. People struggling with manufactured fines discover they funded luxury lifestyles through systematic fraud. Elena takes the microphone with nursing authority. This isn't just money recovery, it's community healing. 6 months ago, we were isolated households. Tonight, we're unified neighbors who chose justice over revenge. Jessica turns the camera, professional gravity settling. Willow Creek represents more than neighborhood drama. Federal investigators confirm this fraud pattern affected over 40 communities, targeting working families, minorities, anyone not fitting narrow preferences. She pauses, letting scopes sink in. Rather than vigilante justice, this community chose legal channels, documentation, collective action. They proved ordinary people can defeat systematic abuse through understanding rights and working together. The moment builds like gathering storm. Time for the mic drop. I step to the microphone, room falling silent with anticipation. Deborah Whitfield tried to call the police on me for existing in my own neighborhood. But here's what she didn't understand about justice. Pause for maximum impact. You can't call the cop who's been documenting your crimes for months. The room explodes. Sustained applause that sounds like freedom itself. Camera lights capture neighbors embracing, tears flowing, sweet taste of justice served through proper channels. Jessica concludes her segment. In Willow Creek, the most powerful revenge was letting criminals destroy themselves while good people documented evidence. Tom Bradley raises teacher hand. What about forgiveness? Deborah's facing federal charges, but she's still someone's mother. The room grows thoughtful. This moment defines who we are, justice seekers or revenge seekers. Deborah faces consequences for choices made, I respond. Our focus is building positive community culture. Justice and healing coexist when good people choose legal channels over personal retaliation. Elena nods. We proved ordinary neighbors can create extraordinary change through patience and collective action. As residents file into October evening air smelling like possibility, Sarah approaches with final question. What's next? I watch neighbors exchanging information, planning projects, organizing legal support. We build the neighborhood Willow Creek was meant to be, where everyone belongs and everyone has voice. Sweet taste of justice mixed with autumn air beats any revenge fantasy ever conceived. Sometimes the best victory is watching bullies arrest themselves while you simply document the evidence. 3 months later, Willow Creek smells like victory, mixed with Robert's legendary tomatoes. His criminal vegetable garden now feeds half the neighborhood through our Neighbor Helping Neighbor program. The man's growing food instead of decorative wasteland, and nobody's getting fined for basic human nutrition. Elena waves from her driveway, loading medical supplies for our monthly health fair. Her aesthetically offensive Honda sports a new bumper sticker, "Honk if you've overthrown your HOA dictator." She got elected mayor unanimously last month, with voter turnout that would embarrass national elections. Sarah Mitchell emerges from the same house Deborah tried stealing, carrying financial literacy materials for today's workshop. She's teaching neighbors to audit HOA budgets and recognize fraud patterns. Knowledge is power, and our community's getting educated with the enthusiasm of people never wanting victimization again. Sweet sounds of children playing echo from our new playground. Built with recovered illegal feasts, kids who whispered fearfully now laugh loud enough to wake counties. Their joy sounds like freedom with training wheels. My phone buzzes. Jake's text about federal sentencing. Deborah, 18 months plus $127,000, 0 cents restitution. Bryce, community service and anger management. Justice served with legal garnish. 18 months feels proportional. Consequences without complete destruction. Community justice protects future victims while allowing redemption possibilities. The real victory sits in my mailbox. Incorporation papers for Willow Creek Community Association. Legitimate, democratic neighborhood organization. Transparent finances, elected leadership, due process, rules serving residents instead of enriching dictators. Elena Knox carrying coffee and satisfied smiles. Ready for dedication ceremony? Today we unveil our memorial garden, not for death, but democracy's rebirth. Plaques on our families who resisted systematic abuse, especially 3 driven away before we organized. Walking to ceremony, I pass houses where families feel safe. Mrs. Patterson waters flowers without violation fear. The Johnsons installed basketball hoops without requesting permission from wannabes. Normal people living normally without manufactured terror. Crowd gathering represents beautiful diversity. Teachers, nurses, mechanics, retirees, single parents. All backgrounds united by overcoming systematic oppression. Elena addresses everyone with life-saving authority. 6 months ago, we feared challenging obvious injustice. Today, we're proof ordinary people create extraordinary change through understanding rights and collective action. Applause ripples across autumn air smelling like possibility. Robert unveils his contribution. Professional timeline documenting our resistance movement, weatherproofed for permanent display, history preserved for future generations. This memorial isn't about revenge, celebration, I tell assembled neighbors. It's remembering communities have power through collective action over individual fear. Sarah presents Financial Recovery, $96,000, 0 cents returned to families, plus $150,000, 0 cents assets recovered federally. But real treasure isn't monetary. It's protective knowledge. Here's our most crucial lesson. HOAs should serve communities, not control them. Always verify corporate registration. Demand transparent finances. Remember, collective action beats individual complaints. When neighbors unite, democracy wins. Memorial centerpiece. Simple bench inscribed in memory of fear, in celebration of courage, in hope of justice for all. People afraid to speak 6 months ago now lead meetings, organize events, mentor other communities. Jessica Martinez returns for follow-up. Cameras capturing children playing where manufactured crises once occurred. Willow Creek became a national model, she reports. Proof systematic abuse ends when good people understand and use their power wisely. Evening settles over transformed neighborhood. Elena tends gardens. Robert documents sunset with artistic precision. Sarah helps kids with homework, without noise violation fears. Sweet justice, taste matured into sustainable peace built on mutual respect and democratic principles. We didn't just defeat bullies, we created systems preventing future ones. Phone buzzes with messages from other communities requesting HOA abuse advice. Elena organizes workshops. Sarah shares analysis templates. Robert provides documentation strategies. We're exporting democracy one neighborhood at a time. We proved ordinary people create extraordinary change, choosing patience over retaliation, justice over revenge, community healing over individual satisfaction. Sometimes, most powerful victory involves building beauty from systematic abuse ashes. The smell of Robert's tomatoes mixed with children's laughter carries sweeter than any revenge ever could. Drop your HOA horror story below and smash subscribe for more HOA stories. Every community deserves democracy. Every neighbor deserves dignity. Remember, you have more power than you realize, but only when you work together.